to Wallace Productions. Today is Friday. Yay! Yay! It's the 24th of May. And it's about 10:25 a.m. here in Reno, Nevada. So I hope everyone is doing well. I've got a new setup, so my camera's up here. But it's okay. You don't need to see my face. So today we're going to begin again and start off with chapter 11 of the Phoenix Journals, and then we'll go from there. Chapter 11, May 6, 1991, Recognizing and Facing Denial of Truth Within Self and Others, the Secret Inhibitor of Taking Personal Responsibility. Greetings, precious Strathea. I am Sananda, one with God. I come in service to Holy God, Aton of Light, and to you, my brethren. In this day we have a petition of which we are honored to respond. And this one petitions in behalf of all, and all of you have lived within what is termed a state of denial of truth at various times in your lives, and most still exist within this bubble of separation from responsibility. So let us define denial. A contradiction as of a statement, a disowning or a disavowal, refusal to grant, give, or allow, to deny, to declare to be untruth, contradict, to refuse to believe as a doctrine, to refuse to give or grant, withhold, to refuse to acknowledge, disown. Now, to fully understand and thus recognize denial within yourself or another, you must understand the negative emotion which stands guard over denial of truth, and that most often is fear. You once have become ever fearful of making change because it means looking within the mirror of self and taking responsibility for those feelings, behaviors, and actions which deny the power of God within you. And one of the most common feelings which must be faced in one who denies responsibility is his feeling of unworthiness, because along with unworthiness is fear of rejection of self. If, for example, once knew how you really feel inside, it feels quite ugly to feel unworthy and to carry emotional depleting parasites within. Remember, Chelas, you choose to feel unworthy. It matters not what judgment any other being wishes to attach to you. You choose to allow or perceive another's derogatory opinions as detrimental to you because you wish to continue to feed your own unworthiness. Self-denial allows you to remain in self-centered separation, which occurs within your space of experience is responded to personally as to how you allow it to affect you, without consideration of others who share your space and or experience. So one way to recognize denial in self and in another is when self-centered behavior, meaning concerned chiefly with one's own affairs and interests, often with a lack of consideration for others, is exhibited in ways such as blame, hurt, and victimhood. Also look for passive resistant thoughts and actions in self, which means the desire to get even for the perceived wrong against you. Only it is done in very indirect, secret, or subtle ways, such as through sabotage, which is an act performed to hamper or obstruct. So in many ones, passive resistant behavior may exhibit itself by these ones denying to give assistance when asked, deliberate procrastination of an agreed upon task, reporting the grievance to an authority without first speaking to the perceived perpetrator, or even refusing to speak honestly to the ones who their anger is directed at, especially when specifically asked to do so. Another reason ones deny sharing honest feelings with one another is that the one who is afraid to tell his opinion of the truth is afraid of what he perceives may be a negative, painful, or angry response by the other. And often ones will not confront another, and the reason they tell themselves is they don't wish to cause pain or rejection to the other. For example, in the case of when a relationship is kindled between two, and then one decides that he's not compatible with the other and wishes to break it off, when what he is really afraid of is commitment of responsibility to the other or loving the other fully, that he may somehow be compromised of freedom. And one cannot be honest with another if they deny their true feelings within of self. Therefore, the confusion becomes manifested for both, in that neither understands the behavior or true feelings of each other, and both wonder what went wrong. The one rejected becomes resentful and angry, and the one rejecting simply ignores the other because he does not know what to say. This then becomes an unresolved conflict of which the effects of the cause of denial and irresponsible behavior will continue to challenge both of these ones in future circumstances. That is, until the lesson is recognized, understood, released, and responsible behavior is truly taken. Well, here is an example which has and does occur in many so-called love relationships between couples, married or otherwise. The wife is angry at her husband because he didn't even notice the new furniture and her new hairstyle, and he seldom wants to talk about and share his feelings about work or other things. So she begins to feel neglected and unappreciated. But rather than discussing her feelings with him, she looks for ways to deny him that which he needs, expects, or wants. So often she finds herself with a headache. When he displays lustful intent. And when he asks her what is wrong, she says nothing, but continues to sabotage their relationship in other ways, such as getting drunk and disorderly at the office party and forgetting to pick him up at the airport. Well, the husband does not understand and is confused by her behavior, and he definitely feels the sting of her anger, which she refuses to acknowledge when he confronts her. So he can do nothing to assist solving the problem if his wife denies there is one. So what is she really looking for? Perhaps to be rejected once again to prove her irrational opinion that all men are worthless? And so she feels, is she? This way, she need not face her responsibility for creating the sabotage of the relationship because of her own crippled self-worth and inability to communicate honestly her feelings and fears. And in this instant, you have two poor communicators, and alas, because of this denial of true feelings within both parties, the crippled behaviors continue for both until each faces truth within self that they each are responsible for creating the circumstance through lack of trust, feeling fear and unworthiness, and denial of all true feelings. This is why communication barriers must be acknowledged and confronted within each, that the barriers be allowed to open for true understanding to be allowed to blossom. Now, some ones are so very frightened to acknowledge perceived negative feelings to another, even when confronted directly, because they fear rejection and even punishment. So they may feel negative feelings such as resentment, anger, or envy, and deny the feelings, often even to themselves. And this is why you ones must become masters at identifying negative, adversarial emotions and feelings within selves, that you can recognize them in others and confront the behavior, that the light of truth be allowed into the space of the denying one, even if the denying one be self. It is a very delicate balance to achieve, because even when you earn to accomplish confrontation of the adversary within self and others, often the denial of truth remains, especially in one who is unwilling to confront self and be responsible for acknowledging truth and thus communicating and acting with integrity. You cannot force another to confront truth, even when it is presented to them in balanced integrity intent. But you trust, though, in a responsible manner, bring your observations up honestly to the one who displays adversarial behavior, and most especially if you feel the behavior is detrimental to you and others, for example, within a work or home circumstance. It is one thing to punish self by choice. It is quite another to allow one to also punish you and others because they refuse to take responsibility themselves. You see, precious chelas, you indirectly support unreasonable and adversarial behavior. If you ignore it and therefore do nothing to change it. Which brings us to our next point, which is common denial of responsibility, mostly commonly exhibited within belief structures, encouraged within your so-called New Age community. We of God's hosts have often heard one speak and ponder about the terms negative and positive. Often ones believe that they must learn to concentrate their energy only on what they perceived is labeled positive thinking, behavior, and actions. For example, Commander Hatton and his spokespersons are often called gloom and doom bringers who concentrate upon perceived negative information and circumstances. Therefore, because ones refuse to acknowledge the truth about the negative, meaning adversarial created circumstances, which they have contributed to the creation of either directly or indirectly through ignorance and apathy. Then they deny their own personal responsibility by condemning or even killing the truth bringer. Now here's another example to add further clarification. If you go to the doctor and he discovers you have cancer within your body, do you demand that he not tell you the truth so that you can then deny responsibility for manifesting of the disease and making the necessary changes of thinking, of behavior, and of actions to facilitate your cure from the serious disease within you? Don't you see? The manifestation of cancer is a gift of warning that there exists unbalance within you. Do you wish to heal or continue to deny responsibility? Well, the choice is yours to make. Commander Hatton and the rest of God's hosts are here specifically to show you the Antichrist cancer you have manifested as a species within yourselves and upon your planet, which has been hidden within your government, business, and cultural institutions and organizations. Do you say to yourself, oh my, that is negative information and therefore I am not responsible for it. That is someone else's problem. I will practice ascension or be raptured so I can escape the ugliness of which I do not want to be responsible. I have news for you, ones who feel not responsible for that which you as a species have contributed to the creation of. You will either take responsibility now for assisting the rest of your committed brothers and sisters to do which God within gives you to do to change and heal the negative circumstances and manifestations already created around you and within you, or you will not be ready for higher responsibility of conscious immortality within God's holy realms of experience. There is not much time left for you to be in the deciding, and none can take your portion of personal responsibility in your place. Although your given tasks and service to God can be filled by another, if you find yourself unwilling to perform them in balanced integrity, you are accountable to self and God for that which you do or do not, if that be the case. So what can you do if you find yourself wanting to hide from and not face responsibility of finding truth and taking necessary action? Recognize first that your denial of facing negative created circumstances of which your world is because of fear. You are afraid of that which you may have to do in order to be responsible and change the circumstance. You are afraid if you will fail to make a difference should you begin changes, and you are afraid of the perceived unknown risk to yourself when you begin to rock the boat of adversarial control. You are afraid because you have in your past lived in ignorance of truth and have successfully run from uncomfortable feelings and responsibility, thinking that perhaps you have or can remain innocent of the effects of the evil about your plane, which through your ignorance you have allowed and supported. I believe you once have a cliche which is succinctly apropos. What I don't know won't hurt me. Well, that statement of false belief says it all, chelas. What I don't know won't hurt me. What you haven't known and refused to see has hurt you and your beloved planet. Ignorance of truth has undermined God within you by condoning the repeated breaking of his cosmic laws of balance, so that his spirit of light, of love, and of harmony has no place to grow. The darkness and suffering, cancerous disease has been and continues to be so very devastating to your species. The adversary has counted on controlling that which you know and believe, so that he can bind you into perceived helplessness and slavery to its illusion of physical, manifested fleshly attachment. The adversary needs slaves to control and manipulate, to have and enforce the power of destruction, which it desires to wield in its hatred of God and all that is of goodness and godly intent. So you must ask yourselves, precious chelas, how do you feed the Antichrist to give it power over God within you? And what is it you truly fear which paralyzes you and makes you wish to hide and not be responsible? I hopefully have given you some ideas where you may begin to unfold the source of your fear, that you may then release it through trusting God of light within to show you that which you need to know in order to sustain only in his service. You will be guided and shown that which will bring you knowledge and understanding of truth. And through empowerment of gaining wisdom of truth, you will receive God's blessings of inner peace and balanced creative unfoldment. So you must first desire to serve God, and your intent creates the way for you to go and remain in God's wings of love and protection. You must see, precious chelas, that you ones who even deny the existence of the Antichrist, adversary to God, to do so that you need not face responsibility when the Antichrist is allowed by you to control your very being. And the destructive results of the Antichrist exists all about you. Do you deny this truth as well, that your rosy view not be disturbed and make you uncomfortable? Well, have you ever considered the comfort of this beloved planet as you pollute her waters and soils and atmosphere with irresponsible thoughts and technologies of death and destruction? How can you live in an obvious facade of splendor when Mother Earth screams in agony of despair at the evil caused her by your unbalanced, ungodly behavior toward her, yourself, and each other? It is time for you each to find the balance of God which exists within you. Those who resist this change to balance, who choose to swim upstream against God's will remain in third-dimensional experience as a puppet for the adversary, and so to remain in self-imposed ignorance for the time necessary to recognize the errors of thought and behavior and correct the imbalances caused to self because of them, the errors. God and we of his hosts offer you the way home through giving you the opportunity to see and know truth about the cancer you've created and which you can heal through responsible thinking and behavior. Through responsible thinking and behavior, and aligning yourselves within the laws of balance of God and the creation as given forth. There is naught to fear when you attune your will with that of God's will, for he is the way, the truth, the knowledge, and the power, and He exists within you. He never turns from that thee. Never will you turn from Him. He allows you to make that choice, precious ones. And what will you do? The adversary, on the other hand, if he is allowed and welcomed entrance into your temple of God, is an insatiable parasite of destruction upon all that is of God and goodness. You have the power within you of God to cast the adversary out forever. So be it, and Selah. Thank you for this opportunity to bring further clarity and understanding to our brethren, precious Druthea. I am Sananda. I come in service to Holy Divine God, Aton of Light, and the creation. May you find inner peace, which wisdom brings. I love you dearly, my brothers and sisters. Ponder your lessons carefully and walk in peace. Salut. Chapter 12, May 8th, 1991. Successful communication means recognizing and clearly defining inner expectations. Greetings, precious Druthea. We are Sananda, Lord Michael, and Saint Germain. We come in the service of Holy God, Aton of Light, and the creation. We will begin this day with the challenge of peeling away the barriers to successful communication in your human languages by efforting to show you how you can stretch the limitations of human language to achieve clearer and more succinct communication ability to one another. Because universal language has no limiting words. It is God's perfect language. And when beings communicate in universal language, there is no way to lie to yourself or another about your intent, since it is the language which utilizes pure thought from that which is in the heart spirit as feeling. So the key to more successful communication on your plane is to learn to fully understand how you feel about a circumstance before you. Now, emotion is defined as a strong surge of feeling, as of love, hate, or fear. So, by understanding and identifying your feeling accurately, you will find that your perceptions and beliefs about any given circumstance will bring up certain emotional feelings. First, you must correctly determine which emotion you actually do feel. For example, when you correctly determine that you are afraid, then you must determine why you are afraid in order for you to successfully resolve it. Fear is a feeling one has generally when he feels threatened in some way. Every emotion is showing you something, a lesson to be understood, or a sustaining need we all have, such as absolute, unconditional love. For example, when you are touched by some act or behavior done for you or another in kindness, which absolute love expresses, you feel joy and unity. On the other hand, when you are angry or hurt about something someone said or did to you, you fail to identify actually why you feel this way. Then you will be unable to communicate effectively to clarify what may perhaps be a misperception on your part. Then most often your unresolved anger and hurt will actually propel you to respond in a variety of punishing behaviors directed towards self. The other who you perceived caused you pain. All others with whom you come in contact, or all of the above. So one of the common ways one responds irresponsibly, which we discussed previously, is through passive resistance behavior, in which one is afraid or simply unwilling to confront the person honestly about his anger and or hurt feelings, and therefore seeks indirect ways to punish the perceived perpetrator against him. And others of you ones respond most directly, your anger and hurt, to the perceived perpetrator, and then of course when ones begin arguing about who is right and who is wrong, nothing is solved, and resentment begins to establish itself most firmly, especially when ones stubbornly refuse to search the common ground of cause, which allows self-understanding of mutual responsibility of the circumstance. When mutual understanding of each point of perception is accomplished for each, then a satisfying resolution which recognizes joint responsibility of forgiveness and release of the error can be reached. Of course, both must wish to resolve the issue between them, for if one's objective is to deny responsibility and continue to blame and punish, then they must deal with what is now their problem on their own. And the others must stand firm with integrity to be allowed themselves to be pulled down or into an emotional drama of one who is unwilling to reasonably resolve their problem. Now, feeling anger and hurt is definitely a most uncomfortable place to be, in that one will feel isolated, separated, and rejected. So his alter ego will urge him to cast blame outside of self. Many of you have most likely heard the saying, or even have personally felt like, it is me against the world. It is not a comfortable feeling to feel unsupported and victimized. And so it is up to you to learn to set aside alter ego perceptions so that you can successfully uncover how you have contributed to the cause of this victim, self-separation, and or misunderstanding with another. And one of the challenges you ones have in your interrelationships is responsible communication. In order to communicate responsibly, you each must become acutely in touch with why you feel these negative emotions, such as fear, anger, jealousy, and resentment. For example, many of you ones often use sarcastic humor to state your true feelings, let off steam, and yet still hide the feelings. And many of your so-called comedians have successfully used cutting, sarcastic, and sardonic jokes to tell the world, or even particularly others, how they really feel about them. And then, of course, they call it humor. They behave as if it's okay to call it a joke because they assume it is less painful to the ones the sarcasm is directed at, only deep inside. They know it is not less painful at all. And one who uses sarcasm in their communication, whether it be a comedian or not, must recognize they most often harbor intense feelings of unresolved anger and or unworthiness, and they desire to feel superior by causing pain, somewhat indirectly by calling it humor to others because of these intense unresolved feelings within. So let us give you a common example of how many of you use what you call humor to express inner hurt and or superiority unworthiness. We've often heard you ones make a sarcastic and ironical or scornful utterance, contemptuous and taunting language remarks such as, when God said brains, you thought he said trains, so that's why you have no brains. And then you'll say, no, just kidding, ha ha ha. Well, we've heard so many unkind things said by you ones to each other, and then, no, I'm just kidding. Sorry, chelas, mostly you are not just kidding in these circumstances. This is most often a dig, and it usually falls under passive resistant behavior. And you have a wondrous cliche in this regard. Many a truth is said in jest. So be it. Now, we will discuss expectations. To expect, defined as, to look forward to as certain or probable, to look for as right, proper, or necessary, informal, to presume or suppose. Now, all of you have expectations, whether you completely understand what they are or not. Of course, for successful communication in your interrelationships, being clear yourself about what are your expectations within any given relationship and or situation is essential. Now, there are what can be termed reasonable or realistic expectations, as well as unreasonable and unrealistic expectations. For example, there is certainly nothing wrong with looking forward to being just treated or to make a successful speech. Those are reasonable expectations for one who treats others justly and one who prepares properly for his speech. But to expect that others will behave as you would in any given circumstances is most unrealistic. All will behave according to their own inner integrity or lack thereof, or they will behave according to the dictates of their own individual personality, which may certainly be correct for them, only perhaps not your way. In order to successfully interrelate in harmony and balance, all expectations must be acknowledged openly, so that all expectations which are determined reasonable be defined clearly for all. In this way, the integrity of your defined common expectations and objectives, such as work objectives, will not be compromised because of unresolved emotions, unrealistic expectations, or other allowed misunderstandings. And there are many kinds of what should be termed social expectations, such as saying thank you when someone does something nice for you or serves you in some way. In most all situations, gratitude expressed to another is most reasonable and certainly appreciated if it is sincere. Now, ask yourselves, chelas, when you once give something to another, whether it be a physical gift or something intangible such as friendship, love, and support, what do you expect in return? You're not honest with yourselves, chelas, if you tell yourselves, I expect nothing. Because even when you extend your hand in sincere love, kindness, and friendship, you expect the one you give to like you and feel connected to you in return. You want to be a part of their life by letting them know you appreciate and support them. You enjoy the inner rewards of giving, which makes someone feel good and appreciated. And if the receiver is ungracious to you, face it, chelas, you are disappointed and often saddened. Well, let us give us another example of expectations. When you personally make your commitment to serve God, what do you expect in return for your service? Well, certainly a reasonable expectation is that you expect to be guided and sustained, to be protected and fulfilled within your service. Do you not? Or what do you expect? Do you expect that you need not be responsible for your own behavior? Do you expect your life to be problem-free and your lessons easier? And do you expect to be more special than your other brothers and sisters? Do you bargain with God? You'll give this if He gives that. We're asking you to really be honest with yourselves, chelas, because your unreasonable expectations are never met, and so it is best to uncover them now, so that you can find the true peace, joy, and balance in your service to God, which reasonable expectations provide for you. Now, we would like you ones to clearly think about what are your expectations when and if you decide to make your home in Tehachapi. Do you expect rich spiritual perfection of the ones already committed in service? And do you expect social fun and entertainment from Dharma, Oberly, Hatton, George, and Desiree, and others here? And do you expect the businesses created by these ones to financially support you now or in the future? And why do you wish to be here? To be closer to God, perhaps? To learn how to be closer to God? Remember, you are the temple for God. Do you recognize a purpose for you? Perhaps a way to serve God where you are able and willing to do so? Do you expect Hatton to tell you what you must do as your service to God? And do you know what your service is? For we will tell you, as has our beloved brother Hatton, that Tehachapi is a place of work, of commitment, of service to God, Aton, our Father, to assist the growth, transition, and cleansing of a sick, unbalanced humanity and this beloved planet, Shan. We have a job, and you ones who choose to serve God are the hands and feet of His brotherhood of light. The road is often most painful and precarious for you, beloved ones of God's service, most especially emotionally, until you ones learn to detach from others' often cruel rejection of you and their unwillingness to see the truth. God only asks that you do your job to the best of your ability. Do you expect that you will? Ponder these things, chelas, for in confronting self-expectations in responsibility, you will unlock that door to the inner peace and fulfillment which has often eluded most of you in your past experiences. Trust. Now, we will discuss a very prominent barrier to successful communication within your interrelationships, and that is trust, defined as confident reliance on integrity, honesty, or justice of another. Faith. Something committed to one's care, a charge or responsibility. Now, trust is a most delicate subject in that most all of you have either breached a trust and or been the victim of a breach of trust by others. So as a result, most of you find it difficult to establish complete trust and faith in others whom you share experiences with. First of all, many of you now recognize that you as common people have blindly trusted your government leaders, and many of them have breached your trust by lying and deceiving you for their own selfish means. So it stands to reason that you not give trust blindly or freely to another human being until you know of their integrity and intent. For example, do you deserve to be trusted? Are you able to keep the private matters of another who trusts you with sharing them with you to yourself? And do you respect the privacy of others? Or are you always looking for the fence of others to see what they're doing, which is none of your business unless it is harmful to you or impacts you in some way that is not responsible? Many of you have a very dangerous habit of gossiping about, and then you wonder why you are not trusted by others. This is why it is important that for trust to develop, one must clearly define what matters are privately shared, and a shared commitment of responsible communication is adopted by both or all parties so that any possible misunderstandings can be ironed out quickly and completely. So in true dedicated friendship and the commitment thereof, one always have the shared objective of achieving mutual trust, support, loyalty, and understanding, especially when differences come up for them to manage together. So there is really little else more painful and disappointing than for one of you who possesses honest integrity within to establish and nurture a friendship, give your love, loyalty, and trust to another, and then find that they do not honor and trust you enough to speak honestly to you about their true feelings. And instead, they spite you behind your back. Or even more disheartening, that they have actually used you for their own selfish means, such as to gain money, prestige, sexual conquest, or power, and never really thought of you as a cherished friend. How many of you now can say by choosing the wrong person to develop friendship with because they did not have the same degree of commitment to your friendship as did you? This breach of trust occurs often in so-called love relationships and marriages, often after the lustful feelings taper off. So by now, you may be contemplating, how do you properly solve a perceived error or misunderstanding with integrity with one whom you claim as your friend? And first of all, you need to acknowledge your feelings, if they be anger, hurt, frustration, or whatever. And then you must set up a time to privately and personally talk to the person you have the problem with. Now, you must be very careful how you approach the person, since they may not have any idea of what your problem is or their connection with it. Tell them how you're feeling. I feel hurt and upset because I wasn't invited to your family dinner. Perhaps I have misunderstood or misinterpreted something. So will you help me to understand your position so that we can resolve this together? And in this way, you have not placed any blame, and you have shown that you value the other person by asking them to assist the resolution of what may be simply your own misunderstanding or oversensitivity, or it may actually be something more than you have understood from your friend's point of perception. Perhaps that is one was irritated with you about something you did, or he just simply felt it was not necessary for you to be there at that time. Now, in business, there are many expectations which ones have about operating their business with integrity. For example, when you purchase a product by phone or mail, do you not expect to receive it within a reasonable time frame and in good condition? Well, many things can happen between the time you order and when you hopefully receive your order. Now, many business owners want to keep your business by ensuring customer satisfaction. So they have a policy of the customer is always right. Well, that is not necessarily true, is it? What about ones who purchase items such as books from you on agreed upon terms such as 10 days or 30 days? Do you not expect them to pay you in full within that time frame? Well, interestingly enough, many businesses, even when given and they have agreed to 30-day payment terms, have a policy that they do not pay before 60 or even 90 days. Is this operating business with integrity? So it has become not reasonable within your current business society to trust ones, especially new customers, to pay you for products they purchase. Yet many retail business persons become indignant when asked to prepay for their purchase and often will simply not buy unless they need the items, perhaps to fill a special order for one of their customers. And why do many bookstores, for example, balk when asked to prepay? Because they do not know whether or not the books will sell within a 30-day time frame and need the time to return the funds from actual sales to the publisher or distributor. Now, America West, for example, has perhaps a little over a dozen of their total open resale accounts who are responsible and really do pay in full within the agreed time frame. The rest do not honor their agreement with American West, and several have never paid their balance. So because of this, America West, in order to continue to pay its printing and overhead expenses, now asks all new resale accounts to prepay with no minimum order required and no returns allowed. Do you blame them? Well, it is interesting to note that many bookstores and distributors expect to be able to return unsold books as well as take 30 days to 6 months to pay for them. So then, of course, the risk of loss is entirely in the publisher's hands. So you ponder this, chelas. Is that reasonable? Now, how many of you have or know someone who has purchased something, say from a department store, and then a year later asked to return it? How many of you have or know someone who has purchased an expensive dress for a special occasion and after wearing it, they return it? This is very common, even with middle class and upper middle class women who are in the social set and can afford to pay for their dress. Well, many department stores have caught on to this practice and now do not allow returns for certain dressy attire. Do you understand, chelas, what we are efforting to show you here? Many ones simply do not behave with integrity, and it has become acceptable to many ones to behave this way. And many simply do not know better and even brag about how they take advantage of businesses. So ones who do not wish to operate with integrity and responsibility must expect a degree of dishonesty from a percentage of business customers. Now, many businesses have a special term for this expected percentage of loss, theft, and damaged products. They call it normal shrinkage. The results, if shrinkage becomes unreasonable, are often higher prices to the consumer if the business wishes to stay in business. And how sad it is that many have become slaves to this beast of selfish deception and deceit. However, you will find, precious chelas, that as you align yourself in service to God, your conscience will not allow you to get away with any sort of unbalanced behavior without some careful and often difficult contemplation of the consequences thereof. So be it. Thank you, precious chelas, for your attention. Drithea, you are most blessed in your loving and giving service unto our Father. Thank you, precious little sister of ours. We are Sananda, Lord Michael, and Saint Germain. We come in the service of Holy God, Aton of Light. May you walk in the peace which true knowledge and understanding brings. Salut. Okay, folks, so that's what I have for you today. And it kind of rings some truth in all of us, I'm sure. We're all going to look back on something and say, you know what, they're right. And I need to do something and make some changes about this. So with that, I'm going to let you go. I've got 1,000,001 things to do today, and it's Friday. So be sure and share your smile. And give those you love a hug, because life is short, and do something kind for another person that you don't know, because they are our brothers and sisters in and with creation. We are all one, folks. Don't forget that. Okay, love you, see you, bye.